Welcome to the Addicted Mind Plus, the podcast where recovery, mental health, and wellness take the front seat. I'm Duane Osterlind, and joining me is my co-host, Eric Osterlind, known for his insightful work on the Stuck Brain podcast. In each episode, we'll dive into actionable, small steps to help those in recovery journey further along the path to wellness. Our conversations are designed to be concise, typically around 15 minutes, though we may occasionally delve deeper when the topic demands it. Our goal, to provide you with practical advice grounded in real experiences and expert insights to empower your recovery journey. So whether you're on a break, on a walk, or just taking a moment for yourself, join us as we explore the many facets of recovery and mental health, one small step at a time. This is the Addicted Mind Plus, where your journey to wellness gets an extra boost. So let's get started. All right, everyone, welcome to the Addicted Mind Plus. We're going to talk about an important topic today. I'm excited about that. I hope, Eric, you're excited as well.
Absolutely. This is an important one.
Yeah, definitely. We are going to talk about relapse prevention and planning. It is something that is so critical when we're dealing with addiction. And I imagine if you're struggling with continued destructive, negative addictive patterns, you can feel really defeated and frustrated. It can really be all-consuming and take up all of your time. You can feel like, here I am again, back in the same place that I started out just a little while ago, and I don't even know how I got here, and I'm just so frustrated, and it can just feel hopeless at times. But if you can put a plan in place, it can help you avoid those triggering situations. And when you get in a triggering situation, it can help you navigate it. And it's really important to do. So if you're struggling with this, I think this episode is going to help you.
Absolutely. And even if you're not struggling at this moment in time, the potential for relapse is pretty high. For alcohol use disorder, it can be up to like 90% within the first 4 years. So that's why this is an important topic. So if you're doing well right now, this is actually the time you should be setting a relapse plan. I want to make sure I'm very clear right now. Take that healthy brain and use it towards a relapse plan. Super important.
And it's not about being pessimistic. It's not about being down on yourself. A lot of times when we're feeling good, this is the work we don't want to do, but it's really about being prepared. It's about having realistic expectations and knowing how to protect your sobriety.
Yeah. And what I love about it is if you put some time and effort into a relapse plan, you can let that rumination about, am I going to relapse, go. So that feeling of being on edge, you can kind of let that start to go because you're like, I set a plan together. So I am ready for the future, which helps let us relax. So that's important. That's why we're going to talk about this today. I'm super excited. Duane, let's dive in.
All right. So what is relapse planning? Relapse planning isn't about expecting failure. It's, as I was saying earlier, about being proactive. It's putting together an action strategy when faced with those tempting moments or challenging situations that can put your recovery at risk. And we're all going to face them at times.
Absolutely.
I know for me, there are situations that I'll get into, and if I don't have a plan, then it's so much harder to cope with it. And having a plan helps me navigate that.
Yeah. And as we talked in previous episodes, relapse is a part of recovery. So there is a high chance we're going to relapse, and that's okay because we're going to forgive ourselves. We're going to get back up on that horse and go. But the thing is, we want to put a relapse plan in there.
So when we're looking at relapse planning, we're looking at creating I guess you could call it a survival kit for your sobriety.
Yeah, I love that term.
Yeah, it's arming yourself with the tools to avoid the setbacks and maintain that progress you've worked hard to achieve. When you're in recovery, you put everything into it. So this is really important. It's about having a plan for all of those situations that you encounter. And like you were saying earlier, relapse is a part of this process. I don't want to be pessimistic about it, but it's a reality. And each time we have a slip or we fall, we can take that information and start to create that plan.
Yeah, and if we're curious about that and we slip and make a fall, that's actually a good growth opportunity to start back up. And part of that is to get that plan going.
Yeah. And so this is really important because in planning, you can start to identify your triggers. So you sit down and you think about what are the triggering situations I could get into or that I have encountered before. It's about recognizing those specific situations, or not just situations. You can talk about emotions or even certain people or places that all increase your risk of relapse. Sometimes we want to go somewhere. Maybe we want to go see some friends at a party and there's going to be alcohol there.
Yeah.
Well, you want to have a plan in place. You want to know, how am I going to handle this situation?
Yeah. Or you might realize that a trigger is conflict for you. So you have conflict with a family member or a loved one, and that triggers you to go consume alcohol or whatever substance it is to get rid of those hard feelings. You want to start looking at coping skills around that trigger.
Yeah.
If I fall into conflict, what am I going to do besides my old coping skills, which was alcohol, drinking, whatever? What am I going to change it to? I'm going to develop some coping skills. A good way to start with that is to look at a therapist or a coach or read some books, workbooks to develop these coping skills for that conflict, if that conflict is a trigger for you.
Yeah, and that can be emotion regulation skills, communication skills, all of that. You have this, you start to develop the skills that you need ahead of time before you get in that situation. And this is something we're always progressing and we're always working on. Also, what's important about planning is that you can build in your support network. So when you are in a situation where you're triggered, you already have a support network in place to be able to lean on. And we all need to lean on people when we're having a hard time. And so if you have that already in place, it makes it so much easier to do it. And so that's also why planning is so important, because you can ask people in your recovery, say, hey, can you be part of my relapse prevention plan? If I'm struggling, can I call you?
Yeah.
Can I reach out for help to be able to talk to you if I'm having a hard time? You want to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And when you do that, when you're sober, when you got a healthy brain, you can have this communication with a friend or a family member or a sponsor or a therapist ahead of time and say, hey, if I relapse, this is going to be really hard for me, but I want to be able to call you. Is that okay? And then you have that permission. So when you're relapsing, you get stuck in that, I don't know, should I call this person? Should I not? Who do I reach out to? What do I do? So if you work that out ahead of time, you can just call them and you know that you're supported in a supportive environment.
Yeah, it helps you get around that shame that you might have. I think all of us want to be strong and powerful and have our stuff together. But the reality is that's just not true, right? As human beings, we're always struggling. So it helps you get around that shame. If you've already talked to somebody and you know they're a safe person, it's just easier to do it. So let's go to the next part. Like, when do we create a relapse plan? Eric, you were talking about this at the beginning of the episode. So why don't you jump in with that?
As I kind of stated earlier, you want to create a relapse plan when you are sober, when you have a healthy brain. And this even goes for depression. If you're creating a relapse plan I have some clients that are bipolar and they go into a depressive episode, you want to start to create this when you have a healthy brain, because that's when you're thinking the best. That's when your resources are the best. So you're going to create it at that point in time. You're not going to wait until all the wheels have fallen off the cart and you got to put everything back to create a plan. Create it when you're feeling healthy.
And I think this is so hard because when we're doing well, that's the last thing we want to do is sit down and create a plan. I know in my own life, when I'm doing well, it's like, I can do that later. And then it always comes back and it's like, I should have had a plan in place. I shouldn't have waited. So if you can motivate yourself right now, if you're listening to this and you're doing well, this is the time to get pen to paper and create a plan. And we're going to help you do that as well. So we'll get into that in a second. But think about it that way. And also what's important when you're creating a plan, it changes over time as you grow in your recovery. It's a fluid document. As you move through recovery, you're going to discover new triggers. You're going to find different coping mechanisms that work for you or better for you. And so it's also important to update this and revisit it and make it a living document so that you can always refer back to it and you're refining it and you make your recovery stronger as you do it.
Yeah, each time you refine it, it grows a little bit and you learn more stuff about yourself, which is powerful in the end.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about how to make your relapse plan and what things do you want to have in it. Now, I believe a relapse plan is going to be very personal, specific to you. We're all unique. We all have different triggers. We all have different things that push us into addiction. And so we have to make it for ourselves. But some of the things you want to include are warning signs of relapse. Think about what are the thoughts or the feelings or the behaviors that signal you may be heading towards a relapse. And you have to really be honest with yourself. It could be shame, it could be fear, it could be anxiety. It could also, and I think people miss this quite a bit, be on the positive side of emotions. Sometimes people relapse when they're feeling really good, when they're feeling really positive. So you need to look at all of those things and look at your past behavior and say, okay, what were the warning signs here? Can I see anything that was happening in my life that I can put the pieces together and start to write that out?
Yeah. And as you're defining that, try to find the very first signs if you can. Because sometimes they're subtle. Like, oh, my sleep is starting to get a little bit messed up. Or, I feel a little bit more tired out throughout the day. And then that leads into relapse down the road. So if you can put some time and effort into figuring out the very first starting symptoms, then that's worth gold. Because then kind of, oh, I'm going down this path way ahead of time, and you can derail that train or change the curve.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the next thing you want to put in there is, what is your immediate response? If you're starting to feel like you're going to use, what are you going to do right now? What is your plan? When you're facing cravings or you're facing a trigger, and it might be like, I'm going to call this person, and you have their phone number in your plan that you carry with you, depending on the level of support you need. Or I'm going to practice some of my coping mechanisms that I learned in the past, like deep breathing. Or I'm going to go exercise. I'm going to go for a walk. What is your plan? Know what your immediate response is. And then what I'd also say is practice them before you need them. Like calling a person that's in your support network. You practice calling them before you need them so that when you need them, it's not that hard to call them.
I love that advice. I love that. Practice that. Call somebody ahead of time so you don't have to wait until you're feeling bad to call them. Call them, and say, hey, I'm practicing calling, reaching out to you. And then you're going to build that relationship as well.
Yeah. And then you also want to know what alternatives are out there. So maybe you're not super triggered, but you don't want to increase it. So can you have some alternative actions to take? I'm feeling out of sorts. I'm going to go hang out with my recovery fellows, or I'm going to go watch that movie I've wanted to watch, that I haven't seen that I want to go see. I'm going to go exercise. I'm going to go out for a nice meal with somebody or something like that can replace those old addictive patterns.
Absolutely. And then while you're doing that, you want to develop a support system, kind of like we talked about. This system could look more like AA, if you're struggling with that, NA. This could be a therapist. I recommend the time to go to therapy is when you're feeling well. That's the time I think you should be in therapy, is when you got that healthy brain. Don't wait till all the wheels fall off the cart. Get in therapy and start working through that. So invest in a support system. Invest in friends, family, AA meetings. Put time there. It's important.
Yeah, you're not going to do this alone. You want to have a community around you to help support you. I've seen that over and over again in all of my work. The people that get long-term recovery have surrounded themselves with a community that supports them. And they've gone out and they've asked for that community. And that's hard to do. It's scary. There's a lot of shame. You might get rejected, all of that. I mean, on some level, addiction is about isolation and recovery is about community. And so you've got to just build that as you go. And then the last thing I would put in there is positive affirmations, positive statements or motivations that remind you why you're doing this work, or pictures of loved ones that you have in your life that you want to be better for. Have that as a reminder of why you're doing this, and write down those positive affirmations. And I know sometimes people go like, I don't really, believe these positive affirmations. It doesn't matter. You want to put it down there as something that you can hold on to. Do it anyway.
Yeah. Put it there, put it in front of you, move towards it.
Absolutely.
What do we do after we created the plan? What do we do with that?
Well, once you have a plan in place, you want to keep it accessible. I encourage a lot of people to have their plan on a document, a piece of paper that they keep in their purse or their wallet. They keep it with them and then they pull it out, and it has these motivational things on it. It has these positive affirmations. It has the phone numbers that they need to call, and they can pull it out and they can summon the courage to take some of these actions in their plan. So you have it accessible. But the next piece I think is really important that gets ignored a lot is the practice of the plan, why you're doing okay. So all those people on your list that are in your support network, call them when you're doing well.
Yeah.
Call them when you're doing okay and just say hi and let them know how you're doing so that you practice it and you visualize it. So I think that's really important. And then ultimately, don't be ashamed.
Yeah.
Relapse doesn't mean you failed. You have to look at it and go, okay, what have I learned from this experience? None of us in our lives are going to live perfectly. None of us do it. We all make mistakes. We all do things that we later on look back on and go, oh man, like that was not the best. That was not the best choice, but here I am. Let me learn from it. Let me grow from it and get back on track with your recovery and keep going forward.
Yeah, it's not a failure. It's a growth opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we hope this is helpful. And to help you create your plan, we've created a worksheet. You can download it in the show notes. You can get it. And what I want to encourage you to do is to write it out. And I would even encourage you to share it. If you feel comfortable enough, you can share it in our Facebook group. Share your plan so that other people can see it too. And I think that gives everybody a lot of support. They can see what your plan is and it can help them create a plan, and everyone can do that together. So check out the link in the show notes, download it there, and start doing this work. You got this.
Absolutely. Keep moving forward.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you're getting a lot out of The Addicted Mind, please write us a review in iTunes or wherever you're getting your podcast. We love to read them. They mean a lot to us. They let us know that the work that we're doing here is really helpful, and it helps other people find this, people who need it, who want to get in recovery and don't know where to go. So for everyone who's done that, thank you so much. And also think about joining our Facebook group. Just go to Facebook, type in The Addicted Mind podcast, click join, and continue the conversation there. Everyone, have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.
See you on the next episode.
Thank you for tuning into The Addicted Mind Plus. We hope today's episode has brought you valuable insights and a small step to support your journey in recovery, mental health, and wellness. For more information about this episode and additional resources, please visit our website at theaddictedmind.com/plus. And if there's a topic you're eager to hear about or a question you'd like us to explore, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us at theaddictedmind.com and let us know your thoughts. Your journey is important, and we're here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, take care and keep stepping forward on your path to wellness.